Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. I am sharing cards today using another fun mega pack by From Lizi. This is the Panda Party mega pack. It includes 32 sheets of 8x8 pattern paper, 4 sheets of specialty cardstock, and 7 sealed dies. The colors are cheerful and perfect for birthday and celebration cards. There are even a few floral designs in this collection. So let's go ahead and get started with card number 1. I'm using a sketch by Mojo Monday. This is number 518. In addition to the mega pack, I'm also going to be including quite a bit of solid colored cardstock. I love to add layers to my cards, so it's always nice to have a good variety of colors that coordinate with the collection. And just to save on time, I've already gone ahead and cut out all of the papers. So for the background of this card, I'm using this fun diagonal striped paper, and then for this larger rectangle piece, I'm using some of the gold mirror specialty paper. I love the specialty papers that always come in the mega packs. For this card, I'm using a sentiment stamp. This is Happy Birthday, and this is made by From Lizi. And I will have links to all of the products in the description box if you are interested in purchasing any of the items. For the other pattern paper on this card, I'm using this fun confetti look, and it has little gold foil touches to it, so it's really pretty. And then I'm just going to use some solid cardstock for this little banner that hangs down off of that sentiment box. And since this cardstock is actually fairly thin, I don't want it sort of sagging down on my card, and with that thicker specialty paper, it has a little extra dimension. So I'm just using some thin foam squares underneath the edges, just so it has a nice even look on the card. So I'll go ahead and add my little sentiment box. So I already have my sentiment on there, and I'm going to go ahead and add this little party hat. So this is one of the dies that's included, and somebody had told me it actually looks like a little pepperoni pizza, and I think it would actually work that way as well if you cut it out in the right colors. So I'm going to do a little inlaid technique with this piece. So I have it cut out in some gold and then also in this turquoise cardstock. And this one is fairly easy to just inlay those pieces, except for there's this little tiny piece in the corner on the hat. I'm not sure why it was designed that way. It would have been nicer not to have that little piece to insert, but I just used my little jewel picker tool to help pick that up. And now just a little finishing touch, I'm going to add a few little pearls. And these were from, I believe, the January From Lizi kit. I always hang on to all of the little extras because they're nice to include later in a mega pack or any of the cards that I'm making. So then I did decide to use a few of the Nuvo glitter drops, and I'm just kind of sprinkling those all around the party hat. And this is the Summer Sunrise color. So I did end up making 2 cards using this sketch. Whenever I use 8x8 paper, I find it's just as easy to make 2 of the same card, especially because of that background paper. You can use 1 sheet of 8x8 and get 2 backgrounds with it, because I cut it to 5 1/4 by 4 inches. So now moving on to card number 2. This is Operation Right Home sketch number 244. And this is a fun sketch because it has a lot of different elements to it. It does require a little extra layering whenever you have more of these pieces to put on your card. So for the background, I'm using some of the pearlescent paper that's included in the kit. It's this lovely mint green color. And then I did use some more of the gold mirror paper for that strip next to that pattern paper. And then for this large banner piece, I have some pattern paper that has a whole bunch of triangles on it, and then all of the little floral triangles actually have embedded glitter. So it's really pretty. So for the sentiment on this card, I'm going to use another From Lizi stamp set. This is just the For You, and it has this teeny little heart right between it, which is really sweet. I'm going to go ahead and layer that on some more of this turquoise or teal cardstock. And then because I am putting this piece over that glitter paper, I'm going to use some ATG as well as just a little strip of some liquid adhesive, just to make sure that it's not going to move. And since that pattern paper has the lovely floral design in it, I thought I'd use a little stitched flower die cut just on the side of the sentiment. Another die that's included in the mega pack is this string of little banners. So I thought that would be fun to add to the corner of my card. So I'm just putting some liquid adhesive on the back and then pressing that firmly in place. And then I'm going to use those same Nuvo drops and just add that little center to the flower. And then I thought I was done, and then I remembered I wanted to color just that little tiny heart. So there is my finished card, and again I did make 2 using this sketch. So now moving on to card number 3. This is a sketch from Sweet Sunday. It's number 286. And for the background paper on this card, I'm using the white pearlescent paper. It's kind of hard to tell, but it is picking up a little bit of the reflection of my overhead light. And then I'm going to use some more of this fun confetti paper. This is one of my favorite papers in the whole pack. It's that gold foil. It's just so pretty. So then for the circle, I'm using some pattern paper that has all of these presents on there. And most of the colors on this particular paper have that peach, kind of an orange, and then some of this green. So I thought I'd stick with those colors for most of this card. So I'm going to go ahead and put just some solid cardstock of this peach color. And then just to tie in with that gold foil on the pattern paper, I'm going to use the clear gold mirror peel-offs. And these are made by Love From Lizi. And I believe I'm using the widest width. These are really pretty because they're clear on the inside and then there's gold foil on the edges. So I just cut some smaller pieces and tucked the ends around. And since you're not going to see the middle, it was a great opportunity to use some of those smaller pieces since the middle part is all covered up by this really large circle. So go ahead and get all of that layered, put my card front onto my card base. And then I used one of the dies that's included in the mega pack, and it says Party. And I cut that out using some more of the gold mirror cardstock. And just the little edge on the side kind of hangs off of that circle. So I did add just a tiny little piece of foam dimension. And then the rest I'm just using some liquid adhesive. Even though I'm putting this sentiment die cut over some fairly busy pattern paper, I think with it being the gold mirror cardstock, it still really stands out and doesn't get lost on that pattern paper. And then just a little finishing touch, I'm going to add a couple small banners in that upper right hand corner, both of them using some more of the specialty paper that's included in the kit. And again, since I like my cards to be even, I don't like one side to be hanging off at all, I did put a small piece of foam tape underneath that green pearlescent paper. Then I pulled out the Summer Sunrise Nuvo glitter drops again and just added a few of them onto that orange strip of paper. So here are my 2 cards I made using this sketch. So now moving on to card number 4. This is Operation Right Home sketch number 116. And I felt like it was time to add some pink. As most people know, I love pink. So I'm using this really bright pink that matches nicely with some of the pink on the pattern paper. But I'm still going to tie in some more of this teal cardstock since I think they go really nicely together. So on that background pink paper, I did cut out that circle matting just to save on cardstock. And then I'm using a floral design for the background. And since I don't want to put too many pattern papers together, especially busy patterns, for that larger rectangle piece, I just used some more of that mint green pearlescent paper. That kind of tones down some of the busyness. I also used a few of the clear iridescent glitter peel-offs to go along that green strip that goes across the card. Adds a nice little bit of sparkle without any of the glitter mess. So again, I'm going to pull out that happy birthday sentiment. It's just a nice small sentiment. I'm just going to tuck it on the side of that circle die cut. And I do change this sketch up just a little bit. Instead of having that circle right in the center on the sketch, I'm going to shift it off to the right just a little bit so that I can add my little sentiment banner there. I'm going to go ahead and pop up that image using some foam dimensional tape. And I just cut out this dog out of one of the pattern papers. There's like a whole bunch of them on there, and I thought it would be perfect for a focal point. Then put a little banner in that upper left-hand corner, and then just a finishing touch, I used some of Nuvo's glitter drops, and this is the white blizzard color. So again, I did make 2 cards using this sketch. So now moving on to card number 5. This is a favorite sketch of mine. This is MFT sketch number 416. I love it because you can have just a tone-on-tone paper for the background, and then kind of your focal point will be another pattern paper for that rectangular piece. Then it's got the bar for a sentiment, so then you can put a little image on there. So it's kind of a perfect sketch. So for this one, I'm using another birthday sentiment. This is a Love from Lizi sentiment. And just to add a little interest on the side of it, I'm just using 3 strips of peel-offs. And I believe this is the mint green clear glitter color. It's really pretty. Again, glitter does not come off. It's all sealed in there. So I'm just going to go ahead and add my pattern paper onto this cardstock layer, and then also my little sentiment strip on the bottom. And then I'll go ahead and put my background paper onto that matted layer. And you did see there's a balloon cut out of the background. So I will be using that later on this card. Just another way to save on some cardstock, especially if you're running low on a specific color. So I'm just going to go ahead and add my card front onto my card base. And for this card, I did decide to have some of the white border of the card base showing. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It kind of depends on what the pattern papers are. Like if there's already a little bit of white on them, I don't mind having some white showing. But if it's a pattern paper that's more of a cream color, I prefer not having any of that white showing. So now I use the balloon die cut. I cut it out in 3 different colors, and then it has that little reflection spot on there that does cut out. Well, I didn't want the pattern paper to show through, so I also went ahead and cut it out in white, and then just did a little inlaid and placed it back into the balloon, securing it with just a small piece of score tape. And then I'm going to layer all those balloons. I glued the first one straight down on the paper, and then I used a real thin foam dimension for the pink balloon, and then a little thicker foam dimension for the green, just so it has a little different, kind of a 3D look. I'm going to add that little banner in the left-hand corner, and there is that card all finished. So now moving on to card number 6. I'm using a brand new sketch to me. This is MFT sketch number 442. And there used to be a time I would never use a sketch I've never used before on video. But I think I just got over that, and now I do it all the time. So this is the first time you're going to see me use this sketch. And I just thought it was fun. It was like an interesting sketch with a little curve on the top, where I've seen it on the bottom before. So I thought I'd give it a try. I used some confetti pattern paper on the background, and then just used this stitch scallop border die to cut that curve. And now I'm going to go ahead and put some ribbon around the top of the card. I just felt like it needed a little something up there. And this is some gold ribbon that came in one of Love from Lizi's kits, and I just had a little bit left over. So this was the perfect opportunity to use that up. I adhered it to the back using some score tape. And then I am going to put just a little piece of score tape on the front, just where the ribbon kind of goes over, just because I noticed it was sort of sagging a bit. So that'll just hold it in place. And then I'm going to use some of this chevron paper for that little strip going across the bottom, just lining it with some more of the clear iridescent glitter peel-offs. These are some of my favorite peel-offs, just because you can add that touch of glitter without all of that extra mess. And that's great, especially if you donate cards and don't want to give it to an organization that can't have that loose glitter around. So I went ahead and cut out a circle die, and then also that scallop circle die, and that's just going to be behind this sentiment strip. This Just For You sentiment stamp is by Lawn Fawn, and then I cut out a stitched sentiment banner, and then I did trim off the very end of it because it is going to be flush on the edge of the card. So I'll go ahead and layer that with some more of the cardstock, and then I will adhere that right over that circle die cut. And since it's going to hang off of the sides, I just put a small piece of foam dimensional tape on each of the ends, and then just some ATG to hold it in place. And then just a finishing touch, I'm going to use a small gold bow, and this was in last month's Love from Lizi kit. I had a couple of them left over, so I just adhered that using some glue dots. And part of the little bow was sticking up, so I did use a couple of glue dots underneath the parts that weren't very flush. So there is my finished card, and I did make two, although I had to use some white ribbon on the second card because I was all out of that gold ribbon. So now moving on to card number 7. This is Mojo Monday sketch number 501. So I thought I would try to move away from all of the really heavy teal color that I've been using, although the main pattern paper does have teal in the background. I used some striped pattern paper for the background, and then this sort of polka dot paper for that wider strip that goes across the card. And then I'm going to edge all of those using the clear gold mirror peel-offs, leaving just that little gap. So once again, this is a great way to use those little leftover pieces of the peel-offs if you know you're going to be covering up part of it. And I am using some more of this gold mirror cardstock, and I don't remember if it was at this point, but I did run out of the sheet that's included in the mega pack, and I dug through my scraps so I could have some more because I love using specialty cardstock. So now here is a little treat for everybody. You get to see me color. I don't color very often. I don't have great eyes, and whenever I do any real detailed work, it does put a lot of strain on my eyes. But I love the look of coloring, so you're just not going to see me do it very often, and I am definitely not an expert. I keep it really simple. So here I'm using just 2 colors, coloring up this beautiful little butterfly. This stamp set again is one of Love from Lizi's from a previous kit, but it is available for purchase. Just put it on a little stitched circle die cut on the bottom. I'm going to add my tiny little banner in that upper right hand corner, and then just a finishing touch, I'm going to use a few more of these little tiny pearls. And I normally just pick these up with my fingers, but I thought I'd try a trick that I've seen other people do and use a little blade instead. So if you ever see a band-aid on my left hand, you know it was a bad idea and I shouldn't do that again. But here are my finished cards, and I did again make 2 using this sketch. Now on to card number 8. And for this card, I'm not going to use a card sketch at all. The background paper is some of this specialty paper. It has an embossed pearlescent look. It was in one of the add-ons from a previous month of Love from Lizi items. I always keep them even if I don't use them right away because I know they'll be perfect on another occasion, just like this paper. The color just matched beautifully with some of the balloons on this pattern paper. So I'm just going to put a strip of this solid cardstock going across the bottom of the card, and again lining it with a few more of the clear gold mirror peel-offs. And then I did use some more of the gold mirror cardstock for the scalloped oval. And again, since I like to keep all of my elements nice and even on my card, I'm going to put some thin foam squares above and below where it's going to sit on this card. So it's not going to be over that strip at all, and that way it's nice and even on the card. So for this sentiment, I'm using another one of the dies that's included in the mega pack. So this is You're Invited. I cut it out using some more of the gold mirror paper. So this card has a lot of gold on it, really pretty. The ends of this die cut have these small holes cut out, and I thought it would be perfect to add just a little mini brad. And I'm just going to use gold because I didn't want a different color on there. But for behind the die cut, so I want the letters to show, so I'm just putting a strip of white cardstock. I thought it would be too much work to actually do an inlaid technique with all of those little tiny letters, so the white cardstock behind just worked fine. And then I just pop that up using some of the thin foam squares. And then again is my little tiny banner in that upper right hand corner. So there is my finished card. Once again, making 2 using this design. So now moving on to card number 9. This is Operation Right Home sketch number 203. Again, I went for some really bright pink. And I did recently use this sketch, so I thought it was a lot of fun and I would use it again. That background paper is some more of the white pearlescent paper that's included in the mega pack. And then I'm using this kind of geometric style pattern paper for those strips in the background. This is a great sketch if you have a lot of small strips left over. But for this card, I did cut up one brand new sheet just to use the same pattern paper for all 3 of the strips. So I just layered all of them using some of this pink cardstock. And then the strip in the middle is a little bit longer than the 2 on the sides. So I do like to sort of lay them all out first before I start adhering any of them in place. So I adhere the one in the middle first, and then I can kind of move the other 2 around just so I get a nice and even feel of them. If you wanted to do wider strips, this would be an easy sketch to modify because you wouldn't have to have such a wide matting edge on the outside. So for the image on the center, I'm using some more of the pattern paper, and this one's covered in all of these little panda bears with balloons and presents, and I just cut out one of them using a circle die. And then I'm going to use another one of Love from Lizi's sentiments. This is Happy Birthday. So as you can see, most of my cards have actually been birthday cards. Never hurts to have a few extra birthday cards on hand. So I'm just going to cut some little fishtails on each of the ends, layer that in some more of this pink cardstock. And I decided not to layer the panda image in the pink because I thought it was a little too much. And I liked having just that extra touch of the teal since it goes well with the background pattern paper. And I'm going to add a little bit of foam squares. Part of it is going to sit over that die cut, so I didn't put any of them there. Just once again, keep it nice and even on my card. And then I pulled out some of the sequin mix. This is the Rainbow Wishes sequin mix, one of my favorites. I'm just putting 3 of them in that upper left-hand corner and then 2 of them in the lower right-hand corner. Sticking with embellishments in odd numbers since it's supposed to be more pleasing to the eyes. And I'm just adhering all of those using some multimedia mat. So there is my finished card, and once again I did make 2 using this sketch. So now moving on to card number 10. This is my final card. I'm using another repeat sketch. This is MFT sketch number 439. And this is a great sketch for all of those little scraps of paper that you have left over from a paper collection or a paper pad. I cut them to all of the different sizes listed on this sketch, and I did change the measurements just a little bit. I cut them down 1/8 of an inch just so I could have a slightly wider border this time. And then just to add a little extra interest to the card, I added 2 of the gold peel-offs to the bottom. I used the widest width and then the middle width. And I'm going to adhere that card front onto a card base. And so this one does not allow the room for the white showing on the card base. So if you do prefer to have that white showing, you'd need to modify the measurements just a little bit more with this sketch. So I pulled out that little banner die cut again. Cut it out with some of the gold mirror cardstock. And I did want to pop it up just slightly, so on each of those little flags I put a small piece of the foam dimensional tape. And then again, pulling out that tiny little happy birthday sentiment, put it on this small little banner. And I did adhere this onto the cardstock using a small piece of score tape. And the reason I did that is because this cardstock is textured. And I've noticed that some of the papers that I've adhered to the texture paper have actually popped off. So whenever I'm getting ready to hand out a card, whether it's to a friend or to donate, I always double check. If something seems to be slipping off, I'm just going to use a little extra adhesive. And then just a finishing touch, I put a small turquoise gem next to the sentiment. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2. So here is a quick recap of the 20 cards I made using Love from Lizi's Panda Party Mega Pack. The Mega Packs really do have a ton of paper. I have quite a few full sheets that are left over along with a bunch of scraps. So you could make cards for a long time using these Mega Packs. I will have links in the description box if you are interested in picking up this Mega Pack or any of the stamp sets that I used for my cards. I really enjoyed using this paper collection. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch my video. I hope you have a wonderful day.